Some people wonder or even ask me, how did I get to this position and doing this type of thing? Do you want the honest answer? I keep wondering the same thing. Let's get to it. Welcome. Another fabulous episode of IBF On Demand. Your career and feeling loved host, Eric Wilson. Thanks for the follows. Thanks for the subscribe. You can find me at eric@ibf.org, eric@ibf.org. You can also find me on LinkedIn, YouTube, wherever you get your podcast. I want to thank Arkiva, driving business transformation by solving what others cannot. Thank you, Arkiva. I'm actually very excited. Sidebar conversation, totally. This is just me personally. I'm excited and I want to share with you. I actually got merch or swag. My daughter hates when I use that word. Sent to me. This is like a first for me. It came to my house. I actually got merchandise. So to my one loyal listener, Lynn, thank you, bud. I'm going to be wearing this with pride. He even actually hooked up my daughter as well. So you got to love that. Love Carhartt. Love the wearables from Carhartt. And I said I'm going to be wearing them with pride. Thank you very much, Ren. And for the 11 other people out there watching and my mom, my daughter, she kind of likes Lululemon, Gucci, anything of that sort. Me personally, I'm a size XL and I love bourbon. So just saying. Take it for what you want. Well, today we're going to talk about people. Yes, but more importantly, I got a great story from a wonderful person. And what you need to do as a practitioner, a manager, a planner, whatever role you're in. I mean, listen, I don't care if you're just getting into the field or if you've been in this field for 20 plus years like me, promise you're going to want to listen to this podcast and you're going to learn something alongside of me today. So, with that, I want to just get right into it and welcome today's guest. Sara has over 15 years experience in various planning roles at Heinz, Georgia Pacific, and now Coca-Cola Company. Her latest role is a vice president end-to-end integrated planning with Coca-Cola. Before taking this position, said Sara led teams in Planning Center of Excellence for Supply Chain and Logistics, Integrated Business Planning, and Product Lifecycle Management. Having managed teams and developed professionals for over a decade, she is a huge advocate for mentoring, coaching, and sponsoring and creating world-class talent. She holds a degree in English from the University of California and an MBA from Case Western Reserve University. She's on the board of directors of the IBF, and a good friend of mine. Help me welcome Sara Park. So welcome, Sara. I'm excited to have you on again.
Thank you, Eric. It's so good to be on again.
I know. I always enjoy talking with you, and you always bring great insights and great information, especially when we're talking about people. And that's really what I wanted to talk today about is about people and get a little glimpse of your story. But then more importantly, talking about, your roles as managers and things of that sort as well. But what we're going to start off with is, some people in this audience may not be familiar with your story. I said, I love your story. I think it's inspirational. So I want you to be able to share that with this audience as well. So, I mean, if you don't object, I'd love my first question would be, can you share your story of exactly where you got to where you are in your career now and kind of those obstacles and how you overcame those to get there?
Ooh, there have been many in my career, but my current role is end-to-end integrated planning at the Coca-Cola Company. And it took me a while to get here, but currently I'm in my dream job. It does not mean that I don't have more to do or give or learn, but this is the ultimate career goal that I've had ever since I started out 22 years ago. Can you believe how long it's been?
You don't look it.
Ooh, yeah. But I started out actually at Heinz. And I was very lucky that I accidentally stumbled into forecasting because at the time I was in marketing. I was an associate brand manager, and we were responsible for volume forecasting for our brand. And I needed to learn how to pull and analyze and interpret Nielsen data as well as our internal shipments data. And my God, it was an accident, but I absolutely fell in love with forecasting because number one, the impact is huge. My forecast basically drove our financial outlook as well as operations. And at the time, I didn't quite understand that because it was just one of the many things that I needed to do every day. But then, two, I was able to turn data into information through effective communication. And three, I got to work with a lot of different people in different functions. So I needed to understand where the demand was being created and how we were going to meet our business plans and the financial targets. And in order to do that, I had to actively work with finance and sales and operations. And it was a great place to start my career. Then a colleague from Heinz recruited me to basically implement S&OP at the Coca-Cola company. At the time, it owned CCR, Coca-Cola Refreshment, which was a US bottler. And I got to move into this amazing company and this enormously large role. And somehow I survived it in the first couple of years. And through about 12 different reorgs, I was able to continuously learn and develop my skills and managed to implement S&OP multiple times in that time. And the career so far has culminated in my current role. And I have to tell you, I've had some little detours here and there, a couple of curveballs here and there, but ultimately I was very clear on what I ultimately wanted to do, which is this right now, that everything I did along the way kind of built toward this body of knowledge and experience. And I am so grateful that I've had many bosses and mentors and advisors along the way that helped me get here. Without their support and sponsorship, truly, I'm not sure if I would have made it this far.
Wow. Now, you mentioned 22 years ago, there wasn't a lot of women in these type of supply chain or even forecasting type of roles 22 years ago. And plus, I'm assuming, this is the path you really created your own path, what you wanted, and you knew what you wanted, and you worked very hard, and you are very much a success in what you do. Is that the same path that, that your family wanted and everything? Is this really what you grew up to be, a forecaster, or is this what you decided you wanted to be?
I decided that this was what I wanted. I talk about falling in love with forecasting, and you and I have discussed this many times over the years. When it grabs you, it really grabs a hold of you. And it's a combination of many of my background and passions that basically came together. So I mentioned data analytics, communication, being able to build a beautiful spreadsheet, and you and I know what that means, and be able
Nothing
to
like a good spreadsheet.
That's right. There's nothing like an elegant spreadsheet. And I had one of those. And be able to also present data and information in a comprehensive and coherent way, because it's a communication tool, right? Forecast is only useful when you are able to mitigate risks and really go after the opportunities. Forecast in itself is, I think, not meaningful unless we know what to do with it. So once I got into forecasting and then demand planning, and then supply chain planning, and then S&OP. It was like, oh my God, I've got so much power and knowledge and information that the company needs to operate successfully, because we are always forward looking, right? Forecast is
Mhm.
not valuable unless you are able to provide a perspective, a point of view in what's going to happen. And honestly, I thought that because I am a woman, maybe that helped as well. I was not afraid, but I have been in many, many meetings where I was the only woman. I was the only minority, especially at the start of my career, in many different settings. But nobody gave me a hard time. Everybody was willing to give me a chance and help me and support me grow. So, yeah, I am happy to see a lot more female professionals in supply chain and also in planning. When I attended IBF conference last October in Orlando, oh my gosh, it was so great to see greater diversity in age, in genders, in industries, where companies were sponsoring and coming from and attending. It's so good to see that transformation in the last 2 years. I mean, 20 years, holy cow. Because I started coming to IBF, I want to say 2004, 5, pretty early in my forecasting career, because I had to learn how to be effective. And I really got my feet under me by attending IBF conferences and learning from you all and other professionals. I remember sitting in the audience of that first day, the executive panel and forum, and thinking, oh my God, I want to be like that woman one day. And it took me a while to get here, but I am now able to join your leadership panels and offer my experience and point of view. So I have been very, very fortunate.
Mentoring then, since you
Yes.
didn't have that role model you could look up to, which I said, I'm happy you're that role model for others now, people like my daughter and everything. But the mentoring, you really stress that in your career development for others as well. Can you elaborate a little bit about mentoring, how it played a part for you, or the importance of it? I mean,
Oh,
regardless of gender, I think mentoring plays an important role for people's career development.
yes. I've had many along my career. And like I mentioned, without my mentors and advisors, I'm not sure if I would be here today. Mentors are people who can advise you and not have a supervisory relationship, if you will. So, how do you meet a mentor? I really leverage my network. So, for instance, I keep in touch with many, many of my former bosses. That's a great place to start. I also have called people, cold call, if you will, and just reached out to people and say things like, oh, I heard you speak at the town hall last week and you were so inspiring when you said X, Y, and Z. So sometimes I have gained mentors that way. Usually when you have that initial introduction conversation, you can kind of see if there's a connection, right? There's more than this professional interest. And when you make that connection, when you have that chemistry, if you will, it's the mentee's job, my job, to continue to schedule time and make sure that I have an objective. And when the mentor suggests that there are actions or follow ups that I need to follow through on, I would document and I would come back and share the progress I am making. Mentors also help me get through some tight spots. I have had career failures, just like we all do throughout. And whenever I had those challenges, my mentors helped me get through those. Now, I'm a mentee, but then I'm also a mentor. To your point, as I grew in my career, I wanted to pay it forward. So I have many, many mentees, and many of them just find me. In fact, the latest mentee who reached out to me found me through our initial podcast on value add forecasting on YouTube. And
Fantastic.
many people actually reference that podcast with you. I'm happy to report. And he works at a company here in Atlanta, and he's implementing S&OP, and he wanted my perspective on, certain challenges that he's facing. So we connected. I have a lot of internal Coca-Cola employees who reach out to me for mentorship, and I do the same thing that my mentors did.
That's great. Well, unfortunately, I can't even get my 13-year-old to listen to me. So,
Children are a totally different thing.
Okay. I thought maybe I failed at this mentoring thing, But okay, so I mean, it was great, and I like that you put the responsibility as you as being mentored, your responsibility to set up the meetings, to call them, your responsibility there. I love that aspect of it, mm-hmm. That personal responsibility I'm all about. So now putting on your manager's hat now, because I know you've built some good teams as well.
Yes.
With looking at this next generation coming in, looking at people building a demand supply S&OP type of teams, what would be some, lessons learned, or what's some advice as far as building teams that you have? Are you helping them find mentors? Are you doing coaching, training? What's some things you're doing from a manager's perspective in building a quality team and really giving them value and showing them the path that they need?
Wow. One of the most important aspects of being a successful leader is loving people leadership. You have to really enjoy it and have to have passion for it. For a hot second, I had a VP role, but an individual contributor role. And I quickly realized that, oh, wow, my passion really is in people management and leadership and development. And the key in developing a really great team that's highly motivated and drive their own work is, number one, having a very clear mission. So building a great team starts with, what are we here to do? What is our mission statement? What are we delivering year after year after year? And sometimes people say it's vision, but then it needs to go beyond just having a vision. It also needs to be a mission statement that you create together as a leadership team. Then number two is mastery. And it's helping people learn their jobs. And part of what I do annually with you guys is the certification of my planners. And I always budget for that year after year after year, because that is my way of investing and developing my team members and giving them the foundational knowledge of what forecasting and S&OP should be. And that's why I came to you about developing a supply planning training module, because I would love to invest in supply planning capabilities as well.
Which we now have.
Which I am very happy to hear about. So I can't wait to see the program and send my team members to your program, because after they complete your certification program, whether they get certified or not, they all come back and say, oh my God, that was such a great use of my time. I am better informed. I understand why we do what we do. And S&OP is a critical business decision-making process. So that's the second aspect. And then the third is giving them autonomy. So, I know there's a lot of debate around, coming to the office, making that mandatory, 3-day, 5-day, whatever. I have been, again, very fortunate. I don't know what the future holds, but so far the Coca-Cola company has left our work from home program, very flexible, and we are completely hybrid. And I have teams all over North America. I have team members in Canada and team members scattered throughout the US. And we try to have physical meetings whenever we can, but then I give everybody complete autonomy when they come into work, when they need to come to the office, as long as they know what their individual missions are and they have the skills and the tools to complete and do their work as effectively and efficiently as possible. But then the starting point, of course, is hiring good people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And people make all the difference. You could have the same process, same leadership, same technology, same everything, but you hire good people leaders, and my God, you can take the same team to the next level. And I look for number one, enthusiasm and passion for the work that they do, because you can't teach that. You bring that as a person with you. And I have always been so passionate about the work that I do that people always say, "Oh my God, Sarah, you love what you do," because I do, and it shows. And so that passion allows me to go and try different things and learn and continue to develop myself. Number two is intellectual curiosity. Hmm, why is it like that? Oh my God, Sarah's offering a forecasting certification program. I don't know what that is, but I want to go do that. I want to learn. I want to expand my knowledge base. Um, wow, Gartner is publishing X, Y, and Z. Oh my God, Journal of Business Forecasting has this article. I want to learn more. Apple News just, had this article on AI or machine learning or whatever. Have that intellectual curiosity. And then even on the job, I love when people say, "Sarah, why does it look like that? Does that make sense? What happened last year? Why does the future forecast look like that? Who's driving that? What retailer is doing that? What customer? What is happening with the consumers?" Because then that intellectual curiosity drives them to learn about things that I might not know and be able to bring it forward. And wow, it might be something that we really can explore and take advantage of. And that's so, so important. And as a leader, I say I'm not the smartest person in the room. If I am, then I hired all the wrong people. The reason that I hire smarter people is because I know for sure that I don't know everything. So I need others to bring their expertise and their learning, their knowledge, so we can be better together as a team. So I very much lead like that. And I love having my team debate and challenge one another respectfully, and challenge me and say, "Sarah, wouldn't it be better if we did it this way? How about we approach it that way?" And I say, "Absolutely, I'll support you. Go explore and let me know what you find. And if it's something that we need to go after, let's figure out how we're going to do that."
Well, unfortunately, we're out of time, but I want to get in one more question. So
Okay.
see if we can take a minute or two with this question. I want to get this in because if you had to go back and give the college you some advice, getting into this field, or just big lesson you don't want to you don't want to do over, you want someone else to learn from. If you had to go back and give the college you some advice, what would it be?
I listened to the best advice I got from one of my uncles. He said, "Go do what you love in undergrad. That's the best time of your life. Go do what you love." So, do you know what I did? My BA is in English literature. I
Yep.
loved every moment of it. In fact, I took a year of design classes and nothing else. I'm so glad that I did what I did, because I am able to leverage what I learned And one of the most important things in literature is critical thinking. And I apply that every day, and I know how to write. So awesome. And then I quickly learned that I could not live on $11,000 a year, even back in the 90s. So I thought, I need a plan B. And I went and got an MBA. And if I could look back and share advice to my college self, I would say, trust your instinct, do what you love, and follow your path. And worst case, you can always get an MBA, which is exactly what I did. And again, I got really lucky along the way, and I ended up with forecasting as part of my first job. And here I am. I just followed my passion.
That's great advice. And I said that was the last question, but I mean, I guess time's an arbitrary thing. We try to keep a podcast because people attention span, but I'm interested. So hopefully my audience is as well. So I got one more question. Okay. So it may just be ditto to what you just said, but if you had to give that advice to my 13-year-old daughter, going into the workforce, let's say she's going into the workforce now and in planning, in supply chain, and is that advice any different? Or, what should as advice for her going into working in supply chain demand planning? Is it the same thing? Just do what you love and don't worry about the arbitrary, stereotypes and what people put on you, just do it? Or is it, hey, Lori, realize these things exist and just work harder?
I have to think about this because my children are actually in that life stage. So I try to limit my advice because, to your point, I'm not sure if they really listen. But what I would say is be open to evolution. Don't be afraid of the latest technology. So, when AI, machine learning capabilities come and get a lot of hype, our first instinct is reject because it's something different, something we don't know. But what I have learned in the last 22 years is if you're not comfortable with being vulnerable, then you're not going to be open to accepting the new reality. So always keep an open mind, no matter what profession you enter, always keep an open mind, especially things like planning. My God, I'm pretty sure algorithms that are a lot more sophisticated than my, statistical modeling can do probably a whole next generation type of work on their own in mere seconds or minutes. But we still need human partnership, if you will, right? We'll never get rid of the human part of collaboration and planning and execution. So don't be afraid, keep an open mind, learn the latest technology, but then there will always be the next thing coming around the corner. And I think that revolution and evolution are happening even faster. So I would tell my daughter, who's about to start college, keep an open mind, go explore a lot of different things, but do what you love. And worst case scenario, you can always get an MBA.
There you go. Great advice. So hopefully everybody, picked up on some of that great advice. I want to thank you, Sara. I knew you did good. We went over, but I think it was worth it for the audience. I don't think they minded either. So,
Eric, thank you so much. I always love chatting with you, and thank you for asking me to do another podcast. And
I love talking with you, and we're going to see you at a conference.
Yes, definitely.
All righty.
Take care.
That was a great interview, and I knew she would. She does a great job. She's got a great career. She's actually going to be in Scottsdale. Check her out there at our IBF conference coming up in October in Scottsdale. So she had a lot of great advice. One thing I want to talk about is in 2018, we were actually talking about the perfect storm brewing. I mean, a shrinking workforce, increased needs in our field, a growing skills gap, and then that changing workforce that we saw generationally. Well, guess what? Not only did all those things happen, but add in COVID, and it just made things worse, or just changed things more drastically. For that reason, we really need to focus on people more and more right now. I just heard a statistic not too long ago. The average, as far as tenure of a new person coming into data science type roles, less than 2 years. We're seeing a similar thing in a lot of planning roles with these limited tenure, especially of this next generation coming in. It's not because that they're just bouncing back and forth. No, they're looking for something they're not finding. And we have an old business model sometimes that doesn't meet the new era that we live in, not only with this generation, but with technology and where we find ourselves post-COVID now as well. Well, that's a wrap for me. I'm going to go figure out still what I'm doing here and visit the post office box to see maybe if I got any new merch. By the way, if you email me, I'll give you my address if you want to send me something. Happy to talk to you. This is IBF On Demand. My name is Eric Wilson. I can find me at eric@ibf.org, eric@ibf.org. Thank you, Arkiva, by the way, for transforming by solving what others business transformation by solving what others cannot. Thank you, Arkiva. Thank you, IBF, as well. And I talked about that training. We do a wealth of training at IBF in regular fundamentals of demand planning, more advanced skills in predictive analytics. We do supply planning. We do an S&OP. We do new product forecast. There's a wealth of different types of content from a 1 hour, 3 hour, 1 day to 3 day course, complete with certification. Whatever you want, we have customized or off-the-shelf training available for you and your corporation or you individually. So check us out at ibf.org for a complete range of training opportunities there as well. Thank you again. Remember, the one thing when working with people, it's most important. Don't forget, wash your hands. So thank you very much.
I stumbled on something, so hopefully your editing team is able to edit out some of the stumblings and ums. So